Today we're diving deep into a single, fascinating study. Seriously, it's like a perfect little snapshot of the biggest questions in online education right now. Who's actually taking these courses? How do they learn best? And of course, the big one. What on earth do we do about AI? So our source for this is a fantastic 2024 paper from the Journal of Open, Flexible, and Distance Learning. The author, João Arantes do Amaral, basically ran a real-world experiment through a massive open online course, a MOOC, that he built and taught himself down in Brazil.
And the setup here is just great. He saw a real need for systems thinking education in Brazil. So what did he do? He built a free 30-credit MOOC from the ground up, just using tools like Google Sites and YouTube. He got 345 people to join, and he used it to try and answer some really critical questions about how we learn today.
He really zeroed in on three key things. First, who are these students, really? And how does their background change how they learn? Second, inside the course, what actually works? Is it the videos, the exercises, the group chats? And third, the question on everyone's mind? What happens when you tell students not to use AI?
Okay, so the very first discovery from this study pretty much threw a common assumption right out the window. The people signing up for this course, they were not who you might think. It wasn't a bunch of young college kids.
The study broke the students down into three main groups, and the numbers are so revealing. You had educators and mid-career professionals, basically experienced working adults. Together, they made up almost 90% of the entire class. Undergrads? They were just a tiny slice, only about 12%.
And why were they there? Well, their motivation was incredibly practical. Get this, a whopping 93% of the students signed up to improve their job skills and become more employable. This wasn't about learning for fun. It was all about professional development.
So, if your audience is made up of these busy, experienced professionals, the next big question is, what kind of learning actually clicks for them? And the study's findings on this were, well, they were crystal clear.
Turns out, things they could do on their own time, at their own pace, were the huge winners. Nearly 90% said the video lectures were effective, almost 80% got a lot out of the modeling exercises. But pure interaction? That's a different story. Only 32% found the course's Facebook group helpful. That is a massive drop-off.
Yeah, the author is pretty blunt about it. He flat out concludes that trying to create this collaborative space on Facebook just didn't work. For this group of learners, it seems it was a waste of time.
And that brings us to the most complicated, and let's be honest, the most relevant part of this entire experiment, the unavoidable clash with artificial intelligence. This is where the study gets really juicy.
So, the professor laid down the law for the final exam. The instruction was crystal clear. Do not use AI to answer these questions. And just to make sure they got the message, he told them he'd be checking their work with AI detection software.
So what happened? The rule was pretty much ignored. An AI detector flagged almost a third of the exams as being either completely or partly generated by AI. And let's be real, even that 70% labeled human-generated doesn't mean AI wasn't used for, say, a little grammar check here and there.
But here's the crucial part. Did it matter for their learning? Well, for the students who just let AI write the whole thing, the result was a complete disaster. When the professor actually graded their work, 100% of those submissions were marked very poor. They were full of generic nonsense that was totally off topic. In other words, that kind of cheating just led to total failure.
But this is the other side of the coin, and it's probably the most important insight here. Look at that human-generated group, the other 70%. Over 2/3 of them got a fair grade or better, proving they actually learned the material. This suggests that using AI in a limited way, maybe to polish up some sentences, didn't stop them from understanding the concepts at all. The lesson is powerful. Not all AI use is the same.
So what does this all mean for the rest of us? This study boils everything down into 4 really potent practical lessons for anyone involved in education today. The big takeaways are pretty clear. First, you've got to design courses for professionals, because that's who's showing up. Second, we have to seriously rethink peer learning. Just throwing people in a group chat isn't enough. Third, and this is huge, trying to ban AI is pointless. It just doesn't work. Which leads to the most important point of all, we have to adapt how we test people. Forget banning tools. We need to use things like AI detection alongside smart grading rubrics to figure out who actually understands the material.
And that really leaves us with the big question, doesn't it? This experiment shows that a flat-out ban is a failing strategy. We know AI is here to stay. It's part of the toolkit now. So the challenge for all of us isn't about prohibition anymore. It's about a fundamental redesign of how we measure what someone truly knows and understands.